Your pelvis is literally the center of you. Everything passes through there. All the information from all the systems is passing through there. It is so important. So you might have had nothing happen with your pelvis and still have pelvic floor dysfunction and wonder why on earth that is. Because it could have been coming from a frozen shoulder that you had. It could be from a torn rotator cuff that you had. It doesn't have to be a pelvic floor injury that causes pelvic floor dysfunction. Drop the mic. When I tell people this, always there's this penny drop, this amazing realization, because we're just not ever told that we are a whole body and everything affects everything in the body. Okay. And of course, I've recorded other episodes about that. It's called biotensegrity, the understanding that when one part moves, all parts move, whether we're conscious of it or not conscious of it. So these are some of the root causes, and there are things that you can do to help those or prevent those. Welcome to Hope for Your Pelvic Floor, the podcast where honest conversation meets real evidence-based solutions for your pelvic health. I'm Claire Sparrow, second-generation Pilates teacher, educator and best-selling author. I'm here to help you understand your body better, move with confidence, and finally get answers that make sense. Each week, we'll bust myths, share insights from movement science and pelvic health research, and give you practical steps you can actually use in your everyday life. Because pelvic health isn't just about exercises. It's about reconnecting with yourself, one breath, one choice, and one movement at a time. Let's get started. Welcome everyone. Welcome back to Hope for Your Pelvic Floor. It's great to have you here on the podcast today. We are cruising towards the end of this season. We should have one more episode after today's episode. Today, I wanted to continue on this topic of the things that women are told. And this is based on the experiences I've had, and also mainly the experiences and the stories that women share with me on a daily basis of the things that they're told, what it means to them, how they receive that information. Because often we're told things in a short 10-minute appointment with a doctor, or in passing by a friend or a loved one who just means well, but perhaps doesn't necessarily know that they are influenced by a bias or a belief system. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we can take ownership. So today we're going to talk about what you are told, how to manage your symptoms rather than actually solving them. Often we're told, okay, do this and it'll help you feel better, but it's not actually getting to the root cause. It really misses the point, and we're going to go into why it misses the point. We're going to go through some strategies. I want to actually give you a whole load of exercises, and not so much exercises. I guess it's more like the how to do things rather than don't do things. So we're expanding on what we talked about last week. I also want to give you a little bit more of an idea of the causes and how you can go into managing the causes. And then I love the idea. I've got my favorite analogy here of building up gradually, just like a couch to 5K. It's such a great strategy. And I'm going to compare how you can work towards some of the exercise recommendations that you're given, because we have this constant kind of contrast where we're told, don't do this, but you must lift weights. Don't lift the kettle, but you must work on your bone density. And honestly, it's so contradictory, and we're just really, I think, quite confused. We're getting mixed messages. We do. And finally, I want to give you a question that you can ask yourself that will help you to have ownership of your pelvic health today and tomorrow, and also the decisions that you make, so that you don't need to feel like you're being told what to do and what not to do. You can decide for yourself. That's a lot. We're going to cover a lot in this episode. As I go through that list of things I want to talk to you about, I think that's quite a lot. So buckle up, as they say, because we're going to dive in to this topic. I shared, on recent podcasts and also in my newsletters. And of course, if you're not getting the newsletter, you can sign up for free. And I every week send a newsletter that I really hope answers your questions, and also, much like the podcast, gives you some tactical takeaways that you can apply in your everyday life. That's really important to me. I feel one of the biggest challenges we as women have is we're spinning all the plates, we're juggling all the things, and time feels super limited. And part of what I hold close to me in the values of whole body pelvic health and Hope for You pelvic floor is creating opportunities for you to improve your pelvic health without having to commit oodles and oodles of time. You can do it in an easy and accessible way in short amounts of time. And that's why the podcast is here, because you can listen to me as you're doing other things and hopefully get some valuable takeaways from that. And I also, as always, I just want to show some appreciation to all of you for listening, for giving me your feedback. I cannot tell you how much it means to me, and it helps me to actually curate what I am here talking about, because I like to be able to answer your questions. So when we come to the end of this season, which is going to be very soon, I'd love you to take a moment to reach out to me and let me know what you'd really like me to cover in the new year. And we've got some exciting things happening in the new year with the podcast. So yeah, I'm excited about that. But I'll say no more on that for right now. And let's get into it. So we're going to go a little bit deeper into some of the other things that women are told. And this might be really uncomfortable for some of you, because you may have suggested this to someone, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're just doing what you know. And I'm here to help to educate us all to have a little bit more information. And these are things that literally I've learned along the way and that women have really told me. Some of the things that women are told, it's more about managing symptoms. So rather than getting to why is that symptom happening anyway? It's, again, as I've spoken about before, it's just about accept your lot, ladies. Just deal with it. That's what's going to happen because you're menopausal, because you've had 3 babies, because of your age, because of this, because of that, rather than, okay, this is the fact, this is what's happening to you, but how can we help you to actually improve that that symptom, and how can we then move you forward toward doing the activities that you want to do and actually are also being suggested for you to do. One of the things I was horrified to hear multiple women told to wear a tampon when they have prolapse to help them to go for a run. So the logic behind this is to push the tampon in to help hold the organs in place so that you can go for a run. It's the similar idea as the pessary. When a pessary is fitted for prolapse, it's holding the organs up, and it's based on the notion that your pelvic floor is weak and needs to be strengthened, and that the pessary is just going to be there to do that job of the pelvic floor, holding things up. But unfortunately, that's not how the pelvic floor is designed. It doesn't act alone as this one thing that just holds everything up from beneath. It's so much more complex than that. It works with a whole load of other muscles. It works with stuff from above, stuff from beside. It's not a muscle that holds everything up. It's multi-layered, and it is just totally wrong. So the idea of sticking a tampon up will potentially help you to just feel a little bit more able to do that run, but it's a symptom management thing versus actually being able to improve the symptoms overall and improve your prolapse. One of the other things that, this is ridiculous and it's a little bit sexist, that women are told when they have painful sex, and painful sex is more common than I think we potentially realise, because we're not talking about incontinence, we're not talking about prolapse, we're certainly not talking about having a painful sex life or just abstaining because it's too painful. So women who do inquire about what can I do, they're literally told just to tell your partner to go a bit slower. I'm like, what? How ridiculous is that? Yeah, just basically push through, get on with it anyway. Let's not go and look at what's causing that. Just go slower and do it anyway. Come on now. We definitely want more for our sex life and our pelvic floor than just go slower and do it anyway. It's crazy. And then the other thing that women are told when it comes to sex is if it's painful, perhaps because of vaginal atrophy, they're just told to use more lubrication, which will, again, it's like the tampon for prolapse. It's like, yeah, it's going to potentially help the symptom in that moment, but it's not going to solve it overall. It's not going to change that overall. And then one of the other ones, this is very common, some of you this will definitely apply to, is holding your perineum, so stabilize, it's actually called splinting, stabilize your perineum, press it up to be able to pass a full bowel movement. So for those of you with prolapse and it feels like it maybe gets stuck and you don't pass a full bowel movement, when you splint, when you press up, it will help it go, it will help it pass. And it will. In that moment, it's going to help you go. And I don't disagree with that as a way of helping you manage in that moment. I also strongly believe we can do something to help that symptom, that problem, that prolapse, that challenge overall. One of the other things that women are told, and for sure a lot of you have heard this, just to wear a pad. So wear a pad just means accept your incontinence, just wear a pad, instead of looking at, well, why am I having incontinence? What type of incontinence? If you want to know a bit more about incontinence, you can go back a few episodes where I talk a lot about the specific types of incontinence. I could go on with this list of the things that are being told to women to just manage their symptoms. Doesn't solve them. None of it will solve it long term. It's just about management. And I, for one, believe we can ask for more from our pelvic floor than just symptom management. You might think, oh, well, all of those apply to me. That's okay. Do what you need to do to live and move through your life, and look at the ways that I'm going to go through that can actually help to improve the experience, the symptom, the issue longer term. Little and often, there's things that we can do that will help to improve those things. And really, it's important that you understand deeply why these measures, this advice, really does miss the point. It misses the mark altogether, because it's keeping your nervous system, it's keeping you in survival mode, in this, like, I'm just gonna keep at that level, that's where I'm gonna be. And it doesn't put you into healing mode, into the rest and digest, the healing of your pelvic floor and your nervous system. Your belief is that that's just what we have to accept. And I want to help you to change that belief system, to believe that, you know me, I'm all about hope, that there is hope. Because this is teaching you, this kind of advice is that you should just endure it, not transform it. Just that feeling of, even when I say that word, to endure. We endure enough. We don't have to endure this. It keeps you on the sidelines. And that is something that I say so often. And I remember literally witnessing a mum choosing to be on the sidelines rather than getting stuck in into the activities with their children. So sad. It just keeps you out of the game of your life. It asks you to shrink down small and play small and make your life small rather than expanding your life and the adventures that you want to have. And those adventures might just be going to the gym 3 times a week. It doesn't have to be climbing some mountain. It's whatever the adventure of your life looks like. You should be able to expand into that and not limit yourself, which is what this is really asking you to do, to limit yourself rather than building your capacity, building up your awareness, building your strength and endurance of your pelvic health. These are just all, wear a tampon. It just doesn't teach your pelvic floor how to function, how to actually support you, how it needs to support you. It's just like a band-aid on the issue. It's not teaching your pelvic floor what to do, because ultimately, if you want to go for a run, having the tampon in there is not teaching your pelvic floor how to manage the impact of you running, is it? It really, really isn't doing that at all. So we need to make sure that we're teaching your body actually how to manage the impact, the load, your breath, all of these things. It also doesn't address the fear that goes alongside all of this, because I know when you're afraid, you get more tense, more restricted, and then your pelvic floor can't be elastic the way that it should be for these activities. Using lubrication, for example, just to go back to those different ones that I suggested, it doesn't change the hormonal issues. We need to look at the hormonal changes that are affecting your tissue. It doesn't change the way that you move, the landscape of it. It really just is, again, another band-aid. All right. So what do we do instead? That's what I really want you to focus on. No, I don't like to be negative, and at the same time, I have to share with you the realities and to help you to understand what might come, what people might say to you, what you might experience, so that you're prepared, you're ready for action. So what do we do instead? Well, we need to go right back. What is the fundamentals, the if you were building a house, the foundations, rather than workarounds, compromise. I'm not patient and I'm not good at compromising. My family would definitely attest to that. I agree that we should have to compromise. I think we need to go as close as possible to our goal, whatever that might be. Maybe you want to do a 10K. We have to maybe start with a 5K, be realistic. So I want to give you some simple, small, tiny things that you can add in to help with each of those kind of issues that we've talked about. We need to be able to very gradually build the foundation. And I'll go on about this till the cows come home. We cannot go from 0 to 60. It's got to build gradually and slowly. Okay. So you're going to build what I think of as your load tolerance, your pelvic floor's ability to manage running, to manage squatting, to manage going for a long walk. So you need to start small. Things like doing teeny tiny minuscule little squats, not like a squat all the way down to the floor, not a squat where you're lifting weight, just a teeny tiny, stand with your feet together, bend your knees a minuscule amount, and then use a really strong exhale, like a big blowout of air, to come up to standing. Rehearse movements. This is such a fun idea. We do this, I talked about it in the incontinence episode, where we need to practice either in our mind or in our body activities that we want to do when we're not in that stressful situation. So in your mind, can you imagine lifting the bag of shopping? Can you imagine going for a run? And that builds the neural pathway so that your body starts to recognize it, and then when the time comes, it will be able to manage. It's so simple, but elite athletes are doing this. So I think that you want an elite pelvic floor. So let's us do it as well. So just to recap, teeny tiny mini squats, feet together, tiniest bend, and you exhale strongly when you come up, and then rehearsing movements in your mind's eye, or just, like in dance. I've told you before about my experience as a dancer. We'd do what we call marking through. So we just like small miniature version of what we're going to do, and it programs it in, or like I said, in your mind's eye. So teach your body how to manage the pressure of an activity like lifting something or going for a run. And it's not squeezing, remember, we don't need to squeeze. That's not what I mean by teaching your body how to do this, or rehearsing. This is really about connecting the diaphragm of breathing with the diaphragm of your pelvis, which we know is the pelvic floor. It's a diaphragm. It works with your breathing diaphragm. If you can relax and let go, it will help to reestablish that. And it begins with the exhale, inviting the natural lift, and the inhale, the natural expansion. And you can do that anytime, anywhere. You don't have to do noisy breathing. You just need to breathe, and that will do the job. And then, of course, I mentioned we really do have to look at the root cause. Why are we where we are? Why are we having these symptoms in the first place? What has happened in your life? Did you have an episiotomy or a tear during childbirth? That creates scar tissue, which begins at that moment of the injury and can continue to get more and more restricted over time if we don't manage that scar tissue. It creates a pool. So if you get tightness in your hip, you get sciatica, you get a sore bottom, you get a sore sacrum, this could all be because of scar tissue tugging and pulling. If we can deal with and work on hydrating and mobilizing that scar tissue, that will immediately start to improve your symptoms. You can do that by sitting on a rolled up hand towel. You can do it by sitting on one of the whole body pelvic health soft balls. You can do it sitting on a face flannel folded in a little square. There's loads of ways you can begin to release that scar tissue. The same with a C-section. That can massively affect your pelvic floor. Things get all kind of stuck down. You might look at it and go, it's really faint and it looks really neat and tidy. Whoa, it's like the surface, and underneath it's like an iceberg where you've no idea where that's gone and traveled to. So just gentle stroking. Hold one hip, stroke to the other. Hold the other hip, stroke to the other. Really simple ways of starting to hydrate and mobilize that tissue. Something else that's really huge is the tension in our fascia, our connective tissue everywhere in our body. If you sit at a desk all day, you're going to get tension in places to hold you into that position you're asking your body to be in. And that can then cause, like the scar tissue, a pull that you don't really want on your pelvic floor. So you could maybe have a massage, or you could get a foam roller and just have some nice, and a soft foam roller, I should say, not a hard foam roller, soft foam roller. Have a little roll around and a little self massage. You can do Pilates, of course. Anything you can do that can improve your posture, improve the mobility of your joints and your tissue will be amazing. Other things that we don't necessarily think of are if you've had other surgeries. Maybe when you were little you had an appendix out, or you've had gallbladder surgery, or you've had hip replacement. All of these things can have an effect on your pelvic floor. We're not in a society or a system or, a belief system where we look at the whole and think, how could anything anywhere in the body have an impact on your pelvic floor? Think about it. Your pelvis is literally the center of you. Everything passes through there. All the information from all the systems is passing through there. It is so important. So you might have had nothing happen with your pelvis and still have pelvic floor dysfunction and wonder why on earth that is. Because it could have been coming from a frozen shoulder that you had. It could be from a torn rotator cuff that you had. It doesn't have to be a pelvic floor injury that causes pelvic floor dysfunction. Drop the mic. When I tell people this, always there's this penny drop, this amazing realization, because we're just not ever told that we are a whole body and everything affects everything in the body. Okay. And of course, I've recorded other episodes about that. It's called biotensegrity, the understanding that when one part moves, all parts move, whether we're conscious of it or not conscious of it. So these are some of the root causes. And there are things that you can do to help those or prevent those. For example, if you're pregnant, let's start doing perineal massage. This is vital to creating the flexibility in your perineum and the pelvic floor muscles so that you can pass your baby with less chance of having a tear or an episiotomy. Obviously, if you've had your babies like me, I've had 3 beautiful boys. I did the perineal massage after I'd already had one and then had absolutely beautiful, easy experiences birthing my big boys after that because I didn't know first time what I know now. And then, having had the diagnosis of prolapse, I learned how to do the internal massage so that I could self-treat the scar tissue from that first birth experience. So it's never too late just because, it was 30 years ago or 20 years ago or 3 years ago. You can still work on improving the health of that tissue. It really, really is. It's possible and it's incredible. And the results of the women that work on all of these things in my membership is just off the chart. It's thrilling. Absolutely thrilling. All right. I wanted to go a little bit deeper into this idea of building gradually. So we cannot go from 0 to 60 because we're told so often, we need to lift weights or we need to do push-ups and things that are going to help bone density, or really we should run because that's going to help bone density. And we sometimes take those things over here separately in some other kind of category to our pelvic floor. Like our pelvic floor isn't with us when we're running or jogging or doing weights. Your pelvic floor is with you wherever you go, no matter what. It's being affected by the activities that you do, and the activities you do are being affected by your pelvic floor. So we can't just go all of a sudden into any of these activities that we're recommended to do. And I get we're recommended to do these things, because of menopause or perimenopause, or your mum's just been diagnosed with osteoporosis, so you should make sure you take measures earlier. All of these things that are well-intentioned. They are well-intentioned. So don't get me wrong. It is well-intentioned, and I agree we need to do these things, but there's no parameters, no guidelines, no information like go and lift weight. How much weight? How often? What type of weight? How should I lift the weight? How do I go from not ever having lifted weight to lifting weight? You're told to do yoga or Pilates. Well, what type of yoga or Pilates and for what purpose? It's so broad, and we need some guidelines of where to go with this because sadly, often it will make your symptoms worse if you just go from 0 to 60. I have women who had no symptoms whatsoever, and they got that scare of, perimenopause, I haven't really thought about it, and the healthcare professional says I should go and lift weight at the gym, and they spend a year lifting weight at the gym with no real guidelines or support in the gym, nothing from the doctor. What am I going to do? they come, they've spent this year doing the weights, and they've come to me because they're now starting to feel a bulge in their vagina. They didn't have anything before. And then they tell me the story, it unravels. Oh, well, 10 years ago, I had my first child and I had an episiotomy, and then the second child came 2 years later and I had an emergency C-section. And there was no pelvic floor physiotherapy, no scar tissue work, no rehabilitative exercises, no pelvic floor check. And then, 8 years after their second child, they're off in the gym lifting weight. And the pelvic floor's never had a chance, never, ever, ever had a chance to learn how to function again. It's just been left to its own devices. And unfortunately, that's then created a prolapse. And it feels so sad to say this story out loud because I hear it so often, and it's annoying as well as sad because I feel like if we only knew this information, it would be different. Women would be more informed, they could help themselves earlier. But anyway, we are where we are, and it's why the podcast exists, and I have to accept where we are, but it does definitely make me feel really sad. So, from that lack of guidance, you can either make symptoms that you have worse, or you can create prolapse or incontinence from doing these exercises without the gradual build-up. And this is the analogy that I love to use, the couch to 5K. I've done this a few times and I absolutely love the system of it, where it so very gradually builds the skill, the strategy, the stamina, and also the mindset. It's motivating. It pushes you just to the edge and then pulls back and builds you back up again so that you completely steer away from injury. You can achieve the goal of doing the 5K. It builds your physical and mental resilience. And I think the principles of that could be applied to any of the other exercise that you plan to do. Could you do way less for way longer and build up your strategy, resilience and stamina over time, which will reduce your risk of prolapse, of incontinence, or worsening your symptoms? When you think, okay, yes, I'll lift 5 kilogram weights instead of 10 kilograms or 8 kilograms, right? And I say, brilliant, but actually, could we do even less? Could you lift 2 kilogram weights? And could you do that for much longer? So I want you to think of me when you're lifting weights. Think of me when you're lifting your weights and think, well, what would Claire say? She would say, do less for longer. Do less for longer. So could you do 3 times a week to the gym, you're lifting weights, and do even less for even more number of weeks? So low weight, high repetition over a longer period of time. That would be my advice, okay? On top of that, we really can't just go and lift weight. We need to also do some overall pelvic floor retraining, re-education, which comes separately. It's the whole body pelvic health concepts where you are building up with the breath, the relationship with your pelvic floor to be able to apply that when you then lift the weights. You can find, as I always say, loads of free resources. You can get onto YouTube. We have a really low cost 7 minutes per day course. So it's 7 minutes for 7 days. And it will really help to prepare your pelvic floor for those other activities. I'll pop a link to that one. It's like £7. We can do that, and it's 7 minutes a day. We can also do that. But anyway, I also want to give you some very specific parameters now about the sorts of activities. Get your pen and paper, because this is really specific. Some suggestions of how you could build up gradually. Let's talk about squats. Do the squats much smaller. I said this before. Do it smaller. Do it with your feet together and exhale as you stand up. Hold the bar. So if you're going to the gym, hold the bar without any weights on the end. Literally just the bar. It's heavy enough. Just hold the bar with no weights. And then add a small weight. The barbell works nicely because it's a more specific range of movement rather than free weights. You can kind of wibble wobble all over the place and lose your alignment more easily with weights. And on that note, if you're lifting, look at, is there a place in the gym where you could sit on a bench with a back support to do that? Or lie with a back support. Lift the bar again with no weights. Have your knees bent and have your knees together. Bringing things to the center of your body will help to create more support. With the weights, I would recommend before you even get to the bar, you actually use fixed resistance. This is all those funky machines where you put the pin in and you choose the different weights. Those give you so much support and control the range of motion, use the very lightest weight, and work on how your joints are moving smoothly. For example, if you're pushing something forwards, your shoulders shouldn't be coming forwards. They should be sitting back rather than hunching. If you're pulling something down, your shoulders, I laughed about this with someone the other day. So I can't help but watch what's going on when I go to the gym, and there's somebody always in at the same time as me, and they do the lat pull down machine. So they're pulling down, but their shoulders are going, so they're literally pulling the bar down and their shoulders are like up round their ears like earrings. It's a down, pull down movement. Therefore, the name gives you the clue where things should be going. So those are just a few simple tips to help you to build up gradually and specific, I guess, to the gym, but you might have weights at home, so it will also help you at home. All of that, though, does need to be accompanied by some specific pelvic floor retraining. And I don't mean squeezing, remember, whole body pelvic health method, breathing, releasing, working on your range of movement, and then finally adding ways for your pelvic floor to be spontaneous and helping it to when it needs to with specific breath and legs together maybe. All of those little tips that I teach you. All right. Let's wrap this up with that final thought of the question that you need to ask yourself, because those things that we're told are often very generic. You know, we have ladies or gentlemen too at the studio that have hip replacements, and they get this little leaflet that's designed for a little old lady that's very immobile. And they're like in their 50s or 60s, and people that, you know, climb the 3 peaks and do all this hiking and all sorts of great stuff. They're not the same as that guideline has been written for. So we have to take those things with a pinch of salt and ask ourselves, is this advice true for me today? And even what I'm sharing, is this advice true for you today? Some of the things in here aren't true. You've already been doing your whole body pelvic health concept, so you're already sorted and ready to start building up in the gym, building up to running, maybe even doing the actual couch to 5K. So it's not like you yesterday or you in your 30s or 20s or the moment that the doctor gave you a diagnosis. Those things are in the past. What about today? Right now, who you are in this very moment. And that's where hope lives. Hope is here, right now, in that question, in you, in the possibilities of what you can do. Not in the silly suggestions to just cover up the issue that you're experiencing, to silence you and sideline you from your life. It really is in this moment of potential of rebuilding and relearning, rediscovering what your body can do, and with all the support that I am here to give you every week. And it's there's just so much hope. So much is possible for you, and you don't have to figure it out alone. Remember, there's the community. We've got a free Facebook group, which I'll link to before, where you can ask questions. I'm in there. You can get the support you need from me, from master teachers, all over the world, there are whole body pelvic health master teachers that can support you. You can join the membership. You've got so many opportunities to truly get the support that you need. That was a lot today, team. Thank you for sticking with me through all the things that I really wanted to share with you today. You might need to listen to this whole episode again and grab your pen and paper and make some notes about how you can apply these things into your own everyday life, into your own practice. And I will look forward to speaking to you all again in next week's episode. As I always say, thank you for listening. Please do support the show so other women can get the benefits of finding us and getting the support that they need. And let me know, what topics do you want for next year? Thank you so much, everyone. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to Hope for Your Pelvic Floor. If this episode resonated with you, please subscribe, leave a review and share it with someone who needs it. It really does help more women find the hope they deserve. For deeper support, head over to wholebodypelvichealth.co.uk to explore the Whole Body Pelvic Health membership. You can ask for more from your pelvic floor and I'll be here, your voice of hope every step of the way.